No one knows exactly how it would have ended, but it was never going to be good. I would have never put them in the same room. The thought wouldn't have even crossed my mind. They were total opposites, two people with absolutely nothing that connected them. Nothing. So if someone did push that introduction, it wasn't innocent. It wasn't accidental. It felt like an attempt to slip into a situation that was never meant for him, to use the relationship as a doorway. And honestly, that wouldn't have shocked me at all. Some stories stay buried because they were never meant to breathe in the light. Stories hidden in shadows, whispered behind locked doors, protected by people who feared what would happen if the truth ever surfaced. But everything changes when the last person keeping the secrets has nothing left to lose. Behind prison walls, far from cameras and the world she once glided through like royalty, Ghislaine Maxwell has reportedly started speaking. And the pieces she's hinting at, fragments of Andrew's past, were never meant to be heard by the outside world. Now, with nothing left to protect, she doesn't seem afraid to let those buried pieces rise. She no longer fears losing anything. Not her reputation, not her old world, not the powerful men she once moved alongside. And buried within the fragments she whispers is a story involving a fallen prince and a young woman who would later rise into the spotlight. What she hints at is simple. Their paths crossed long before the world knew her name. And the real beginning was on a yacht drifting under a sun no one remembers clearly anymore. At first, it sounds impossible, too strange, too dangerous, too perfectly hidden to be real. But once you start tracing timelines, matching coincidences, and following the clues tucked between the shadows, something happens. The pieces fall together. The pattern sharpens. The lock turns. Somewhere inside the quiet, forgotten corner of 2002, there lies a secret that shifts everything. A secret about who she was before fame touched her. A secret tied to the prince. And a secret connected to an event that would unfold months later, an event no one publicly linked, yet everyone should have. A sudden, terrifying medical crisis. A rushed surgery. A hysterectomy that no one saw coming. If it sounds like too much for a single story, stay with me, because by the time we reach the end, every piece snaps into place. The yacht. The prince. The whispered pregnancy. The infection that spiraled into something far more dangerous than anyone imagined. This is the story a woman behind prison walls hinted at. And it all begins where it always had to. The coast of Nice, wrapped in the warm February air of 2002. Nice, France. February 2002. The sun sinks into the sea like molten gold, turning the harbor into a glowing bowl of light. A Greek billionaire's yacht waits at the dock, enormous, glittering, pulsing with music and faces that look like they were printed straight out of a luxury magazine. This wasn't a tourist vessel. It wasn't a cruise. It wasn't even a party in the usual sense. It was a private celebration for one meticulously selected guest, Prince Adrian, a man drifting through Europe on a diplomatic assignment, collecting secrets as casually as other men collected stamps. And on that very night, stepping onto that same yacht with the calm confidence of someone twice her age, is a young actress named Mara Lane. Not yet a star, not yet a household name, just a woman who carried ambition like fire beneath her skin. This was years before the spotlight, long before titles, long before the world would learn her name. Back then, she was just a girl with sharp ambition and a fire that burned hotter than anyone around her realized. No one knew it yet, but what happened on that yacht would become one of the strangest, most whispered stories tied to her past. A story that refused to die. Every story needs a witness. This one just happened to get the most unlikely witness imaginable. He was an Australian backpacker who went by the alias Bob. He didn't fit into this glittering world of billionaires, diplomats, and champagne-soaked celebrations. He wasn't rich. He wasn't famous. He had nothing but a cheap backpack, a worn pair of shoes, and enough money to make it to the next train station. But fate has a strange sense of humor. By pure chance, Bob crossed paths with Theo, the yacht owner's son, while drifting through the streets of Nice. Theo liked him, trusted him, and invited him to a party he promised would be unforgettable. Bob didn't realize unforgettable meant stepping onto a yacht where two worlds collided right before his eyes. He didn't know he was walking straight into a moment that would carve itself into his memory forever, the moment a powerful prince locked eyes with a young actress named Mara Lane. He never expected to witness the spark. He never expected to feel the tension. He never expected to see the connection forming in real time. Yet he did. And years later, he would become the only person alive who could say, "I saw Mara Lane and Prince Adrian together before the world knew who she would become." Bob remembers every detail. The music thumped through the deck, the lights shimmered across the water, and there was this strange, electric feeling in the air, the kind that warns you something unusual is about to unfold. Bob didn't realize he was standing on the edge of a rumor that would one day grow into a shadow trailing a woman all the way to the steps of power. Because before Prince Adrian even set foot on the yacht, Mara Lane was already drawing every eye in the room. Not because she was famous. She wasn't. Not because she was powerful. She wasn't even close. It was the way she spoke, like someone who genuinely believed she was destined for something enormous. According to Bob, she told anyone who'd listen that her father was an award-winning Hollywood lighting director, that she had just booked a role on an American medical drama, and that one day she would become the first female president of the United States. The other girls on the yacht couldn't stand her. They whispered behind manicured hands, rolled their eyes, called her a fantasist, a girl who talked too big, too loud, too boldly for someone with no real status. But Mara didn't care. Not even a little. Her focus was fixed on the staircase. She kept glancing upward, watching, waiting, scanning faces. Because Mara didn't just want attention, she wanted the prince. And the moment he arrived, her story truly ignited. When the clock slid past 11 p.m., something shifted. The air tightened. Conversations broke mid-sentence, and a hush rolled through the deck as if the yacht itself sensed someone significant approaching. Heads turned in unison, the prince had arrived. Even the music seemed to bow in his direction, dimming itself as if the yacht understood who was about to climb aboard. Then he appeared. Prince Adrian. Calm, confident, gliding through the crowd with the ease of a man fully aware he was the most influential presence on the entire vessel. And Mara saw her opening. She didn't hesitate. She didn't blink. She didn't wait for someone else to move first. According to the witness, Mara stepped toward him with the focus of someone who had already decided exactly how the night would unfold long before she ever set foot on the yacht. And less than 30 minutes after Adrian's arrival, she was already perched on his lap, not shy, not uncertain, not the slightest bit self-conscious. She wore a tiny white bikini that caught the lights like polished shells scattered across the sand. She leaned in close, her lips brushing his ear as she whispered to him with the intimacy of someone who'd known him for years rather than minutes. The other women on board watched with a quiet, simmering irritation, glances sharp, whispers sharper, traveling through the warm night air faster than the sea breeze itself. But Mara didn't notice. Or maybe she did, and simply didn't care. Her focus was locked on one person only, the prince. She had one mission: capture the prince's attention before anyone else even had the chance to speak. Some would later say her approach was bold. Others called it calculated. But whatever the truth was, one fact couldn't be denied. Prince Adrian noticed her. And he didn't pull away. That single moment, that fearless, unwavering move, became the spark that lit the next 72 hours on fire. Everything unfolded fast. 1 second. Mara was whispering into Adrian's ear under the soft glow of the upper deck lights. The next, the two of them were slipping down a narrow staircase that led to the private cabins below. Then they vanished. Completely. For 3 entire days, guests and crew members would later recall how trays of food and bottles of champagne were delivered to one specific door, the cabin Mara and Adrian had taken. No one ever saw them step out. No one saw them wander back onto the deck. To everyone else on board, they had simply disappeared into the belly of the yacht, swallowed by secrecy and salt air. And for 72 hours, that cabin became the center of a story whispered for years. The cabin door stayed shut, morning blending into night, night melting back into morning. Whatever happened behind that door, whatever was said, whatever promises were whispered in the dark, remained sealed inside that tiny room beneath the waves. But the witness remembered one moment with absolute clarity. When Mara finally stepped out, her skin sun-warmed, her eyes bright, her expression soft with a quiet satisfaction, she brushed her hair back and said something that froze the entire group of girls still lounging on the deck. "I've got my prince at last." She didn't laugh. She didn't smirk. She didn't say it like a joke. It was a declaration. Confident, certain, almost triumphant. And by the end of that third day, Mara and Prince Adrian walked off the yacht together, side by side, the kind of exit that makes people whisper long after the moment is gone. They walked off the yacht as if nothing unusual had happened, as if disappearing for 3 days into a private cabin was just an ordinary weekend. But everyone knew it wasn't ordinary. And what followed proved just how tangled those 72 hours would become. The party dissolved. The lights dimmed. The laughter drifted away. The waves smoothed back into their quiet rhythm. But Mara wasn't done with the story she believed she had sparked. She kept in touch with Theo, with Melanie, even with Bob, the soft-spoken backpacker who tried to stay invisible yet saw more than he ever intended to. But most importantly, according to those who were there, she tried to keep a line open to Prince Adrian. Mara was convinced that what happened on the yacht wasn't some fleeting, forgettable moment. She treated it like the beginning of something, a doorway into the life she'd been dreaming about for years. She told people that she wanted to be someone significant, someone with power, someone whose name opened rooms and shifted conversations. A prince, any prince, was exactly the kind of door she wanted to step through, and for a short while, the communication continued. Her name meant nothing to the wider world yet. But to her, the spark she believed she had ignited, it meant everything. She carried that belief with her for weeks, into new conversations, new fantasies, new plans. She had gotten close to a prince, and she wasn't about to let the story end on a glittering yacht beneath the nice moon, but something was waiting for her. Something she never saw coming. A silence. A shift. A door that didn't just close. It slammed shut. And when it did, it was final. The next chapter of the story begins with that silence. The moment everything Mara believed she had secured dissolved like mist over the French coast. After the yacht, she moved through life with a new kind of confidence. The confidence of someone convinced she had unlocked a door most people would only ever dream about. She believed she had formed a connection with Prince Adrian, one strong enough to pull her into the world she wanted more than anything, a world of influence, prestige, and power. But then the change came. Quick, cold, merciless. When Adrian returned to London, his life swallowed him whole again. Royal duties, official meetings, layers of protocol. And suddenly Mara found herself standing outside a kingdom she thought she was already stepping into. She tried calling his mobile. It stayed off. She found the number to his newly assigned office. She called again. And again. And again. According to those who heard about it, her calls became so frequent that the prince finally gave his staff a simple instruction. Do not put her through. To Mara, it wasn't just silence. It was rejection, sharp, heavy, humiliating. As if the yacht had never happened. As if those 3 hidden days below deck had been erased. As if every whispered promise, every plan, every spark had evaporated into nothing. But the silence wasn't the most important part. What mattered was why she was trying so desperately to reach him, because Mara wasn't calling just to talk. She wasn't calling to reminisce. She wasn't even calling to demand attention. She was calling because she believed she had news Adrian needed to hear, news that would shake her life, and his, into something no one on that glittering yacht could have predicted. Adrian never picked up. And Mara was left alone with a secret that grew heavier with every passing day. This was the turning point. The moment the story shifted from ambition to something far more human, fragile, and devastating. According to the circle of friends connected through Melanie, Theo's girlfriend, Mara confided that she had urgent news for the prince. And woven beneath those words was one trembling belief. Mara thought she was pregnant. And she believed Prince Adrian was the father. To her, it wasn't just news. It was her future, the next chapter in the destiny she thought had begun on that warm February night in Nice. She saw it as the door that would cement everything she had worked for, everything she had dreamed of, but she couldn't reach him. Every call hit a wall. Every message slipped into nothingness. Every attempt to connect evaporated into silence. And with each silent day, reality settled deeper into her bones. She was standing at a crossroads she never imagined facing alone. Sources say she wrestled with the weight of it. Fear, ambition, shock, hope, and uncertainty colliding inside her all at once. For days she struggled, torn between the life she wanted and the one she was actually living. And then she made a choice. She reportedly decided to end the pregnancy, not because she wished to, but because the man she believed would stand beside her never even answered her call. The silence she received didn't just close a door, it shoved her toward a choice that would split her life into a before and an after. Anyone else might have taken the quiet as rejection, but she read it as a challenge, a dare from the universe. And if the story had ended there, it would have been dramatic enough to satisfy any script, yet fate had been waiting with something darker, something that would twist her path far more violently than she ever imagined. In the months following the loss she never spoke about, her life blurred into reinvention. She stepped into the orbit of a man tied to the upper rings of political power, someone who carried enough influence to shift the direction of entire rooms with a single opinion. He saw her ambition, the fire she kept hidden under polished smiles, and for a moment she believed he might be the key to the life she'd been chasing. Power, recognition, a seat close enough to decisions that she could almost touch the pulse of the world. But power always comes with shadows. And according to the chain of whispers that followed her, the moment that truly shifted her future wasn't the politician. It was a brief, impulsive entanglement with an actor. One night, one mistake, one secret she never saw coming. He carried something with him, something invisible and destructive. Not a scandal, but a sickness. And when she discovered the truth, her world didn't just tilt, it collapsed inward, forcing her to confront the darkest consequence of a single reckless moment. The infection didn't arrive with warning, it hit like a storm. Before Arya could understand what her body was fighting, the situation escalated into something far more dangerous than anyone around her imagined. Whispers from those closest to her say the infection spread rapidly, aggressively, and by April 2002 she was rushed into an emergency procedure that would alter the course of her life forever. A hysterectomy, swift, terrifying, and final. One moment she was climbing through the world with ambition burning behind her eyes, convinced destiny had carved her a path lined with spotlight and influence. The next, she was lying under hospital lights, fighting for her life while everything she once believed about her future shattered in silence. The dream of a family, the idea of motherhood, the version of life she had held quietly in her heart, all of it was swept away in a single irreversible decision. After that day, Arya rebuilt herself from fragments. The world saw reinvention, confidence, poise. But beneath the surface lived a truth she never allowed the cameras to touch. The infection, the surgery, the loss, the chain of events that had started on that glittering yacht years earlier. Every connection, every secret, every choice had led her here, and even years later, when Arya stepped into titles, wealth, and power, the whispers never fully died. The rumors about the island, the nobleman, and those 3 unaccounted days drifted through her life like a ghost wandering the halls of a locked memory. Time moved on. The world changed. But the legend, the one no one could ever fully bury, waited for its final chapter. Arya Vale rebuilt herself more times than anyone could count. Each reinvention was sharper, brighter, and more controlled than the last. Eventually, she married Prince Rowan, the charming, camera-ready royal the palace staff teasingly called the Prince of Pink Pancakes for his habit of cooking overly sweet breakfasts during official tours. With him, her life exploded into global attention. A new title, a new image, a new era. But some stories never die, some stories stay stitched under the surface, too deep to erase, too dangerous to speak. The people who knew what happened in Niel, the coastal city where everything began, never forgot. The ones who saw her rise recognized the bitter irony beneath her polished smile. And Lord Alistair, the man whose path had once crossed hers so intimately, kept his distance with a coldness that felt rehearsed, practiced, as if every interaction carried the weight of a shared ghost. Those close to the palace whispered about the icy tension between them whenever they appeared in the same gilded room. 2 actors trapped in a play neither dared to acknowledge. And then came the final twist, one buried in the shadows of the elite. When Lysandra Marlowe, the imprisoned socialite with far too many secrets, spoke cryptically about the forgotten sins of Alistair's past, she didn't mention tabloids or rumors. She didn't mention scandals or speculation. Instead, she whispered about 3 days. 3 missing days, a young woman, and a memory Alistair desperately prayed would remain buried. A story he hoped would never claw its way back into the light. The yacht, the whispers, the secret. The infection, the surgery, the locked cabin door beneath the deck. A chain of events that shaped the hidden past of a woman who would one day become a duchess. A story that started as a rumor but clung to every corner of her rise like a shadow that refused to step back. No matter how brightly Arya Vale rebuilt herself, no matter how dazzling her crown or how global her fame, the ghost of Niel walked beside her. The people who were there still talk about it in hushed tones. The ones who watched her rise still wonder what truly happened. And Lord Alistair, the man bound to those 3 missing days, has spent years trying to pretend they never existed, but ghosts are stubborn things. They don't disappear simply because power demands silence. They don't fade because titles change. They linger, breathe, and wait. And this one has finally found its voice, whether the palace wants it spoken aloud or not.